Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. We're up to episode number 65. If you are keeping score, and as always, I'm your host, Rick Jenkins. It's time for another industry outlook, and today we'll be talking about aerospace. The aerospace sector is booming in South Carolina, having grown about 22% in the past 5 years. Here to provide the outlook on the $38 billion sector is Stephen Astemborkski, the Director of Engagement and Aerospace Initiatives at the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness. But before I get to Stephen, I do want to thank our presenting partner, Haynesworth St. Boyd, one of the premier legal firms in South Carolina. Founded more than 130 years ago, the legal firm has 100 attorneys doing business across the Carolinas. They have attorneys in Charleston, Columbia, Florence, and Greenville, and also in Raleigh, North Carolina. They have experience litigating in many industries, from IT and real estate to healthcare and manufacturing to construction and telecommunications. Thanks again to Haynesworth St. Boyd for helping make it possible to bring this content to the business community in South Carolina. And now I'm joined by Stephen Astemborkski with the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, man, it is good to have you here. Like I said before we came on the air, I haven't seen you in a while. It's been a bit, and you drove into Greenville from Columbia. Thanks for making the trip.
Yeah, well, so actually, while our office is in Columbia, I myself live in Greenville.
Oh, you do live in Greenville, so you just came home early.
That's right.
Oh, well, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we should have recorded this around noon. You could have left for lunch.
Yeah.
Listen, let's get into it. As I mentioned in the introduction, aerospace is booming.
That's right.
It is behind, just to provide a little context, as I said, $38 billion of economic impact a year aerospace brings us. Now, advanced manufacturing, of course, a little over $200 million. And then you get into agribusiness, which is second in the $50 million range. But then you've got aerospace right there at $38 billion. And again, for a little bit of context, tourism, which of course many of us feel drives this state in a lot of ways, $30 billion, only $30 billion, but behind aerospace. It employs a lot of people too, right? I mean,
Yes.
We're talking about 150,000 people. The thing with aerospace, it pays well, right?
That's right. Yes. Just so the average salary in aerospace is just over 80,000, maybe 87,000 about 80,700 right around there. But it employs north of 135,000 people. Direct and indirect, and that salary, that's a 40% wage premium over the average South Carolina job.
Right.
So if you're an employee, you go into aerospace, you're probably going to have a job for a long time, and your job's going to pay very well. And what's really interesting about it too is every new aerospace job to the state multiplies other jobs across the state. It's a 1.7 multiplier. So for every one new job that's added at an aerospace plant, a direct aerospace job, there's 1.7 other jobs, whether it's supporting them with manufacturing or supporting them with life services or the school that their kids are gonna go to or whatever. There's a lot of benefit to bringing aerospace jobs. It's one of the reasons that we think, that aerospace should be supported, and it's an integral part of our economy.
Yes. I want to talk about four main topics today, Stephen, and I'm going to kind of tee you up.
Sure.
Okay? And I just kind of want you to tell us where we are within those topics and kind of where we're going and where you see it. And we're going to talk about four topics, and three of them are pretty sexy, okay? Three of them are really good, fun topics to talk about. We're going to talk about F-16s that are manufactured, of course, in the upstate over at Lockheed Martin. We're going to talk about defense, which, that includes things like drones and missiles and all kinds of good stuff that we can talk about, which mostly is situated down in the low country. And then I want to talk about wide bodies manufactured by Boeing, also in the low country. But we're going to start with a topic not quite as sexy as all of that, but nothing as important as the supply chain. And it is doing really good for aerospace. And let's start, Stephen, with Toray. Toray in Spartanburg, the world's largest manufacturer of carbon fiber, I believe. What's happening at Toray?
Yeah, so Toray has been a partner of SC Aerospace for a number of years. The world's leading pre-preg plant, or at least here in the States is. But that plant is actually poised for expansion in the future. I think it sits on about 400 acres of undeveloped land that they haven't yet used. But Toray came here with came here really to supply the Boeing 787 plan, or the large part of its business plan. And with Boeing, and I know we're going to talk about Boeing in a minute, but with Boeing looking to ramp up, they're positioned to continue their ramp up to be able to supply that line there. It's really been a leader. And there are some other companies as well. Tigen and Composite Resources, some of them I might talk about. We're really seeing kind of composites as an area of expertise here in South Carolina. And then when you couple that with, just down the road from the Torrey plant is the Clemson Composite Center, located at the Greenville Technical College Center for Manufacturing Engineering. Or you couple that with the McNair Aerospace Research at the University of South Carolina and the work that they do supporting composites. We're really seeing, whether it's in research or it's in manufacturing, we're really seeing composites taking hold as a strong part of the aerospace economy here in South Carolina, which is important. It's composites are how we get a lot of weight out of the aircraft. You want an aircraft to fly longer, fly further. You got to make it lighter. The easiest way to make it lighter is replace a metal part with a composite part.
COVID hit in March of 2020, and we're far removed from it now, but the lessons that we learned still seem fresh. How did aerospace make its way through that supply chain fiasco?
Yeah, it's what's interesting now is one of the reasons that the industry is so strong as far as jobs and backlog is because of the pandemic. When the pandemic started, a lot of companies didn't know what they were quite going to do yet. The forecasts of what the demand was going to be, there were just so many unanswered questions that, understandably, companies were a little hesitant to invest or book new orders. Now that recovery has started, and really here in the state of South Carolina, when it comes to jobs and how we're working, we've just about fully recovered to where we were before the pandemic. But one of the reasons for that is because the backlog is just huge right now. Every plant I talk to, people are always telling me, we've got orders, long into the future. We're looking at how we can expand, how we can become more efficient to get through this work. And so it's a good problem to have. But that demand is back, and it's really keeping our factories hard at work.
Let's talk about Widebody, and let's get back to Boeing, which you have touched on already. How many planes is Boeing manufacturing? Per month?
Yes. Right now, the 787, which was consolidated in North Charleston back around 2020, 2021, they're making 7 a month, but they have plans to expand. And the plan right now is in 2026 to get up to 10 a month. The focus will be on establishing that third. Right now they have 2 final assembly lines, so they'll be establishing a third final assembly line. And there's some other expansion plans with that, a cafeteria, and some other support buildings, things like that. But that's a very exciting development, and that's right in line with what we see when we either when we go to an air show or if the Department of Commerce is representing the state in an air show. When we get these industry updates, we see that demand for wide bodies has grown, and it remains strong. And I think right now Boeing is booked until 2032.
How about that?
Yeah, so that's awesome. And all the plans that they're making now, I should say, the work that they're doing now is not just because they got to crank out more aircraft next week. They're making plans for 10, 20, 30 years, in the future. So these are long-term investments, long-term plans, and a commitment to South Carolina.
Do you know where those planes go? If they're looking at doing 10 a month, 120 a year beginning next year, I would assume that they don't all stay at home.
No,
In the country. How does that work?
Yeah, they go all over the world. There's always announcements from airlines,
right.
Foreign airlines, domestic airlines. Once there's still Boeing's product until the customer comes and picks them up. But that's what's kind of cool, I guess, about picking up an airplane, or
right.
It's you don't really take delivery. You go and get it and fly it away. So,
right.
But yeah, no, they're all over the world.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to defense.
Okay.
And I am glad you're here because I hope you know more than I do about what companies are in defense, mostly in the low country, as I understand it, but who knows? Because we don't always know who they are and where they are. And there's not a lot of information that comes out, at least that I've been able to find on some of the stuff. But there is cool things happening in the low country in the defense area. What's going on?
Yeah, so one of the areas in defense that right now is gaining a lot of traction is drones. And this is probably a lot is due to what's been in the news with the conflicts overseas, where we're seeing drones being utilized all over the battlefield.
Hundreds at a time.
Yes, yeah. Drones have been a very important part of of the future of defense and aerospace, and so we have a lot of companies that are working on again kind of working on the composite side of drones. So a company like TIG Hitco, which is located in Ladson, they're working on blades for drones that can be composite. They're installing some new equipment and some bringing in some new work to be able to supply those blades.
Stephen, are any of those drones, to your knowledge, being manufactured, those military style drones being manufactured in the state, or only the pieces for them?
Right now, I think it's only the pieces. There could be a company that I'm unaware of, obviously, but I think it's mostly just the supply chain for those drones right now.
Right. Okay. And other than drones, we've got missiles and all kinds of other military pieces that get manufactured, and we have parts being manufactured for them.
That's right. Yeah. So another company that comes to mind, one that's here in the upstate actually, Mayor Advanced Manufacturing. So they're as of October 1st, moving into their new 41,000 square foot facility, kind of located, about an eyesight of SCTAC. So they're installing an 800-ton press, some inspection equipment, some testing equipment, some furnaces, things like that, and they're going to be working on unmanned aerial vehicles for sea, land, and air, and loitering munitions. So that's another example of a defense company that is moving out of their smaller facility into a new facility because they're seeing a ton of demand in the defense area.
I'm wondering how prominent defense is in terms of the entire aerospace pie.
Yes.
Do you have a feel for what percentage of that economic impact that comes from the sector that is devoted to defense?
Yeah, so that can get kind of confusing too on how we break that down. If you look at, and it fluctuates a little bit, but if you look at what we define in our aerospace study, we're at about 40% is considered civilian aerospace core, what we call it. So that's manufacturing, air travel and airport services, things like that. And then the other 60% is defense. Now that mostly means contracting that happens with our bases. So a place like Marine Corps Air Station Beaufort, where there's work to support the aircraft that they fly out of there, or the National Guard bases and the civilian contractor support that supports that. When you look at the aerospace core, that 40%, I don't have the breakdown right now, but that aerospace core, there can be defense work inside that as well. And so what that means is, making an F-16, that's included inside our aerospace core because that's creating a manufactured project or product that'll then be used for defense, but that's not what we consider that defense piece of the pie for the purposes of the study. We're really talking about that defense contracting that supports like units and bases, things like that.
Right. You mentioned F-16, so let's jump right in there. F-16s, of course, manufactured, the only place in the world manufactured in Greenville, South Carolina.
That's right.
Just right up the road a little bit. You talked about Boeing next year wanting to produce 10 wide bodies a month. F-16s, what does that production look like?
Yeah, so I don't know what the number is that they produce per month, but they are another one that has a significant backlog, and one that is that aircraft right now is highly sought after by our foreign defense partners, and all the aircraft that are made here, those those aren't going to the U.S. Air Force; those are going to our allies. And so it's a very, very well-respected aircraft, very advanced. The Block 70, the Block 72 are the ones that they're building here, which is the highest level of F-16. And so every year there's improvements made to the plant to be able to make the process more efficient and allow them to deliver again on time. So I don't know the exact number or anything, but I'm impressed. Every time a new country takes a delivery, when it's in the news, and you see the delegation come over here, and it's a real big deal for them. It's a real celebration because it's such an integral part to that country's sovereignty and their national security, and ours for that matter.
I never thought about it, but I'm going to geek out here a little bit. So when a country buys 50 F-16s, do they bring a bunch of pilots over and fly them back, or do they bring an aircraft carrier and take them back? How does that work?
Yeah, that would be cool. I could imagine, seeing a big formation of aircraft taking off from here. I don't think it's quite that dramatic.
No, of course not. But I don't know how it works, how they go back home, so to speak. But let's look forward here a little bit. Aerospace, like we say, I think the last 5 years up 23%, something like that. So it's in a little boom time for aerospace. Is that going to continue? Is it going to level off?
No, I think it'll continue, for the foreseeable future. And the reasons that we see, or the signals that I see that show that, is the investment that's going into other parts of the supply chain. So, just down the road from here, Bodyco is another example. So they're a special process provider. Last year I was there at a open house to show off their new hot isostatic presses, and they're installing another one in 2026, and they're also bringing in another vacuum furnace. So when you see things like that, when you see the investment, you see the confidence from those companies that they know that you don't just install that hip for just for a few months and then rip it out of there. I mean, that is a significant long-term investment, and they're seeing that because they're also seeing the signals that demand for the products that we work on, the products that we make is here, and it's going to be here for a while.
It's no surprise, no secret that manufacturing deals with workforce challenges, trying to find as many people as they need to do the jobs. How is aerospace, which of course is manufacturing, in many of the instances, how are they dealing with those challenges?
Yeah, well, really deal with it on all levels. Let's start at the most basic level, the K-12 system. So one of the things that our organization has done was help establish a Southern Regional Education Board aerospace engineering curriculum. It's now in several high schools across the state. I'm not quite sure the exact number, but it's around 10 or so. And it's a 4-course sequence that high school students can study aerospace engineering and start to learn those principles of aerospace and the manufacturing that supports it, but also hopefully kind of inspire them to go into aerospace as well. There's a similar program that is sponsored by the the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, AOPA. And same idea. It's a little bit more flight focused. Utilizes drones and things like that. And we talked about drones earlier, but learning how to fly drones or fly on a flight simulator. But again, that's kind of at the most basic ground level to inspire those students and give them the basic foundation. You step up to the technical college level, a 2-year degree. I can't say yet because nothing's been announced official, but have had meetings with companies that are looking to create new training pipelines for their workforce, working with our technical colleges, and I think of a place like Greenville Tech with their new fabrication welding center that they're building. We really work to or really have seen our technical colleges be a leader, particularly Greenville Technical College and Trident Technical College in the Low Country. If you've never been down there to the South Carolina Aeronautical Training Center, look me up after this, and I'll figure out how to get you over there to take a tour of the place, because it's just beautiful, and they're always training Boeing employees over there, in addition to others. And then he stepped it up to the four-year university level. So, the state's aerospace engineering curriculum is housed at University of South Carolina. Not only are they, educating students there in that program with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, but they're also doing research at the McNair Aerospace Research Center, which I think I mentioned earlier. It's really kind of a whole workforce approach that we're taking here in South Carolina. We don't just want to be a manufacturing place. We want to be a place where research can be done and innovation, and that's why we focus all the way from the four-year university and beyond to, right down to our K-12 system.
Stephen, really good stuff.
Yeah,
I appreciate you, man.
yeah. Thanks.
Thanks so much for joining me, folks. That is Stephen Astemborkski. He is the Director of Engagement and Aerospace Initiatives at the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness, or SC Competes. I want to thank our presenting partner one more time, and that is Haynesworth Sinclair Boyd, one of the premier legal firms in South Carolina. We couldn't have done this without the support of those guys. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. We will see you the next time.